I'm Caitlin, and today we are discussing The Darkest Temptation, which is the last book in the Maid series by Danielle Lori. And we're pretty excited because we're actually in the same room right now.
I know, that's not happened a single time in the year of this podcast.
I'm so excited. Tabby's home for the holidays, and we are hanging out in our dreadful hometown. Yeah, I'm going to start us off by reading the back of the book. And by the way, this book of the three received a 4.11, which was the second best rating of the three. And
it's fair.
I feel like that's fair, yeah. So it says, a fortune teller once told Mila she'd find a man who would take her breath away. She refrained from telling her it would be literally while Mila ran for her life. Having always done what is expected of her, Mila dresses the part, only dates college boys with exemplary backgrounds, and doesn't ask questions. Not about her papa's absences or his refusal to let her set foot in her birthplace, Russia. Suffocated by the rules and unanswered questions, Mila does what she's always wanted to. She boards a plane to Moscow. She never expected to fall for a man on the way. One with unexplained wealth, tattoos on his hands, and secrets in his eyes. But it doesn't take long for his caress to become a rough grasp, muffling her screams. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Unfortunately, a Russian winter is the coldest of them all, and Mila soon learns the only way to escape intact is to do the impossible and thaw her captor's heart.
So you know what's really funny? I've actually never read the back of this book, and that gave me so much information as to what to expect from it, because, like, when I read it the first time, I was like, obviously, you know, something's going to happen with Ronan, this dude, but I was not expecting him to just, like, drug her out of the blue and, like, drag her off to, like, the middle of nowhere, and, yeah, I literally could have just known that ahead of time.
Yeah, whenever he drugs her, and then it, like, goes to his perspective the next chapter, and he was like, man, I've had this syringe in my pocket just waiting to use it. I was like, excuse me?
Oh my god.
I knew he was giving off dangerous vibes, but...
like, the main male character in this book, obviously.
Yeah, but I was like, he's just been waiting to stab her in the neck with a syringe. Okay.
Love that.
I love that for her. It worked out in the end. So, what would you rate this book?
I think of the three, I don't know. I really, really liked the Maddest Obsession a lot, but I also really liked this one, but for two very different reasons. And we actually didn't give ratings last week, our bad.
Ooh.
I gave this...
Let's rate it today.
So I'd rate the Maddest Obsession like a 4.92. And I gave this one like a 4.86 out of 5. So it was like very, very close. It was really good. It was really dark, and everything about it was unattainable, and I love that.
Yeah, I love that, because then it makes you feel less horrible about liking
like
the
none
morbid
of this was real,
stuff.
And maybe it is somewhere, but certainly not here, so.
So if I were to rate the Maddest Obsession, I would rate it just a teensy bit lower than the Darkest Temptation, so just kind of flip-flops.
Sure.
So maybe like 4.8 for the Maddest Obsession and 4.9 for the Darkest Temptation. I looked at the first time I had read it on Goodreads, I had given it 5 stars, and I stand by that. Like, my first impression stayed.
I was a little scared the first time I read it, I'm not gonna lie, because, like, just right after, like, one thing after another, I was just like, what is going on in this home?
Yeah.
And what will continue to go on in this home?
I was a little bit shook when, like, the first thing he did was, like, strip her naked and tie her to a bed. I was like, oh.
And I was like, oh, no. Like, are you gonna rape her?
Yeah, I was worried. Yeah.
But he did it, and it's fine.
Yeah, it's definitely the most
I was like,
unhinged.
Oh, you only kidnapped her? Like, we're good.
Oh, yeah. That's fine then. Absolutely. So speaking of Ronan, the main male character, he is terrifying. He's very scary and unhinged. He's covered in tattoos, and he is down bad from first sight. Like, even though he can't, like, truly admit it till later on, he really, like, is obsessed with Mila from the get-go.
And it's so funny, too, because, like you said, he was like, yeah, I've been carrying around this syringe in my pocket, and he's like, but there's just something about her, and I was like, I mean, that's cute, I guess. And then it's like, whenever he has her tied to a bed, he's like, fuck, I just, like, can't be mean to her. And it's like, you're being kind of mean to her, but...
He's like, damn, why is she crying? I don't like that.
Like, oh, man, this is pulling at some emotion I've never felt.
He is, like... a product of horrifying childhood trauma, just like Christian was.
Yeah.
And I love, like, and this part of the book is, like, when Mila had been poisoned, but they, like, got her to throw it up. And she's, like, asking how he learned how to swim. And he was like, oh, yeah, my mom, like, put me in a car and tied a brick to the gas pedal. And Mila is like, wait, what? Like, a record scratch.
He's like, but it's, like, not a big deal. Anyway, about you.
Yeah, he's like, anyways, how are you feeling? Yeah. And then he didn't even tell Christian what happened when he got home that day.
I know.
He was like, I went swimming. And Christian's like, it's March. Everything's frozen. He was like, well, what can I say?
You know,
I was hot.
kids are gonna be kids. I felt so bad for him. Because, like, Christian obviously felt like he had taken the brunt of... And he did, of what, like, their mom was putting them through. Like, he tried to keep Ronan, like, relatively out of it. But, like, Ronan's mom straight up did not like him.
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah.
He was dealing with his own shit.
So I know Christian had, like, a bunch of the physical things happen to him, which is obviously awful. But, like, Ronan was still there, and he was just, like, hiding.
He's like, I just gotta listen to this.
Which is also just terrifying to think of, like, a young child. Because I think he said he was, like, 5 or 6.
Yeah. And it's like, Christian's mom made him, like, be with strange men and stuff, but she didn't try to drown him in the river.
Yeah. So, like, they both had their own, like, their own brand of childhood torture. Love that for them.
Ronan's just, like, a boss bitch. He was like, you know what, I'm gonna take this bad situation, I'm gonna make it into something great, for me at least. Like, the others, not so much, but he's like, prison, that's fine, like, I can roll with it. Oh, like, they're gonna put me in the Brava? Yeah, for sure, let's do it. And he's like, and you know what, I think I can also just, like, run this shit.
He's like, I think I should be in charge. What do you guys think?
And he's like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, and that's kind of, it reminds me again of that same scene where he's just, like, crawled out of the river and was talking to Christian, and they see a politician on TV dressed super nice, and he was like, I kind of want to be like that. And Christian was like,
no.
A politician? He's like, no. And Christian's like, God? And he's like, no, I think I'd rather be the devil. And Christian's like, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You can do whatever you put your mind to, kid. And he does.
And so he does, yeah.
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to be the devil.
And it's like, that's truly the American dream.
Yeah, it's truly the Russian dream.
He did that.
I loved his whole character leading up to him kidnapping Mila. And then it's like, he's got some flaws, but we'll see if we can look past it. He's hilarious.
His inner monologue is so fucked up, but like...
Yeah, it's like, ooh, I should not be laughing at that. Like, it's not funny to, like, traumatize people. But he loves the little game. He loves being, like, everyone being afraid of him. Like... And then there are times
silly, goofy mood.
He's just like, yeah, I'm gonna fuck around and mess with people. But, like, there are times where he has, like, empathy and compassion. Like, whenever the little servant girl was, like, used to poison Mila, he's like, well, like, she didn't have a choice.
It's not her fault.
Yeah.
Well, and, like, even, like, I didn't write this down, but, like, I was thinking, too, about, like, that little kid who straight up, like, fucking, like, shot him.
Yeah.
He was like, I mean, fuck, like, that's what I would have done, too.
Yeah.
Like, how can I yell at you?
He was like, I literally can see myself in you, because it was a little poor, starving child.
He's like, you little scamp.
Yeah, he was even about to, like, try to give him money, and the kid shot him. He was like, oh, I should have seen that coming.
He's like, get fucked.
He's like, I forgot Alexi's out to kill me, damn.
Man. So, Ronan's a good guy, you know?
Yeah, deep down.
Deep down, he's a good guy.
Mila can fix him.
A lot for his men.
Yeah, he does.
And
he's
a good boss.
Albert, he loves Albert.
Yeah, Albert's his best friend. He would never say. He's like Ron Swanson in that way. He was like, he's the best friend I've never had.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I am not willing to let you know that this is a friendship.
But I love you.
But I also will not do anything to harm you.
Because I feel like if anybody else had, like, talked to Mila the way Albert did, or, like, created, like, a friendship with her the way he did, he'd been like, you're fucking dead.
Yeah, he'd be like, you are about to be chopped into little tiny pieces and fed to chaos.
So, Mila, she's our main female character. She is, like, just the dumbest main character, and I love her.
Yeah, the first time I read it,
I was like, you're an idiot.
Yes, and it made it hard for me to like her at first, the very first time I read it.
Yeah, no, I despised
this time
her.
around, because you don't see more like substance to her till later on.
Yeah.
This time around, I was like, our sweet little
I was like,
cinnamon
you
roll.
are just so unproblematic.
Yeah, she is so precious. She needs to be protected at all costs. And I thought it was so funny. So Ivan was like trying to get her to come back to the States because like he knew she was literally in danger, but no one told her that.
He knew she was in danger, but like it was for his own like gain.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But like nobody would just like inform her that she's literally in danger.
Right.
But she was like, wow, it's so weird that everyone in this city is like staring at me and like taking pictures of me. Anyways, I'm just gonna go about my time
Like,
here
you guys
and be
are
a tourist.
so kind here.
Except they were mean to her.
I know.
Because they were scared of like the retaliation.
Yeah, dude, that whole part where like when she first got there and that dude's like fucking like stalking her and watching her, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna like take care of this for boss man. Like I'm just gonna like get her and get rid of her.
Yep.
And it's like, that's crazy. But she was like, you know, that was one instance. Like,
Yeah,
she
she was
they
like-
all can't be that bad.
It was a rough part of town and like
It's my fault.
yeah, she was like, oh my god, like that's on me. Like silly me.
Like, I was not watching my surroundings.
There was, so at the beginning of each of the chapters, there's like a little word and a definition.
Yeah.
And so one of them was Lovey and Rose. And I was like, oh my God, that's
is
Mila.
her.
She's like, everything is rose colored glasses for her. She is like always looking on the bright side. She thinks that there's like good in everyone and everything until Ronan betrays her.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, god damn.
She's like, oh, okay, well, maybe not everything is good. And I thought her, like, coping mechanisms for that were, like, very interesting as well, because it was very dark, like,
Yeah.
for what you would initially think of Mila. And so she definitely does have, like, a dark side to her, and we see that quite a bit. He's like,
yeah.
oh, you're actually, like, kind of scary, and, like, have, like, a really bad temper, and we're like, oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Like, I love that.
Because she, like, throws shit. Before she, like,
She
realized
shot
she was
somebody.
poisoned. That, too. And before she realized she was poisoned, she was, like, throwing shit around the dining room, which Ronan does on the reg. So you're
Right.
like, okay, so they're both unhinged.
Like, I love that for them.
Yeah.
I also think, like, her, so she teaches herself how to, like, speak French and stuff because her dad sucks.
Yeah.
And I love it, like, anytime she's, like, just laying in bed or, like, in the shower or whatever, she's just, like, saying, like, conjugations.
Yes. That is so funny, too, because, like, she learns at the end of the book that she's half French.
Right.
And so she's like, oh, what a coincidence.
Also, she, like, left and was like, all right, I'll be right back. Like, I'm not gonna tell anybody. It's totally fine. And, like, her whole boyfriend, too. Like, she's just like,
Yeah.
he won't
Well, because she
miss
didn't
me.
like him. And honestly, he probably didn't really. I mean, like, he was probably like, where the
I
fuck did
thought
she
that
go?
was, like, a super weird addition to the
Yeah.
book. She, like,
Like, why did she need to have a weird fiance?
I know it was for, well, we find out later that it was like a business acquisition for Alexei.
Mm-hmm.
And so that dude was probably like in the Bratva too. No, he was like in a different cartel, maybe, I can't remember.
Ooh,
But it was
remember
like
the
a business
specifics,
arrangement. So
yeah.
like the dude probably would have been a shithole anyway, but
Oh, I'm sure.
she's just like, meh.
And she really just did not like him. And I don't blame her. He sounded boring.
But she does this twice in the book, and it's like, it kind of like comes full circle, because after she gets shot and like Ronan comes in and like confesses as much as he can of his love, he didn't fully confess, and that was his problem.
That's on him.
She was like, you know what, when you're ready to grow up, like,
Yeah.
don't come find me, actually.
It's giving Cecilia and Tobias.
Yeah, she was like, you're done, and I'm gonna go be really successful somewhere else. And she does, and I'm like, what a queen. Like, so much character growth.
I know, because she's definitely like, I love him and this breaks my heart, but at the same time, I know my worth.
Right.
And like this, like you not admitting that you love me back is not gonna fly. And
Yeah.
so she's just like, peace and blessings.
Love her. She really grows on you.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Christian, Gianna, and their daughter Kat are
My
in this book.
favorite part of the book.
Ooh, so really, they kind of come into play a few different times throughout, but they are very much the comedic relief and like the sitcom feels.
They also give, like, spoilers, I think, though, for, like, future books,
Ooh.
which I'll talk about.
Okay, yes, we will talk more about that. But one of my favorite scenes in this book is when they first, like, arrive and Mila's there tied naked to the bed. And Gianna is like, oh, my God, Christian, look what your brother did.
Look at this.
And Mila's, like, crying.
Who the fuck are you people?
Gianna's like, okay, sweetie, I'll get you untied. I'll get you a t-shirt. But that's all I can get.
I don't have undies. I'm so sorry.
It's so funny. She's like, so next time I see you, I bet there will be more clothes,
She's
less being tied
like
to the bed.
Psychic.
It's also just so sweet to see their family dynamic.
But I also, like, obviously she was very concerned for her. Because she was like, well, I know how these men can be. And so that's why she helped her.
Are you okay mentally?
She's like, just making sure, like, blink twice if you need help. But if not, like, I'm just going to leave you here. My favorite part of Christian in this book is just, like, seeing him, like, in the role of being a father and, like, how he interacts with Kat, like, how protective he is of her.
Yeah.
It is so different than what we see in the Maddest obsession. Like, he's very protective of Gianna, too, but he's definitely, like, a freaking hard nut to crack. Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's just still not, like, overly warm and affectionate, even at the end of the book, but he is, like, so different with Kat. Like,
yeah. He's like, you want Fruit Loops in your pancakes? I'll get you Fruit Loops in your pancakes.
Got it.
And Kat is shoo-wee.
She crazy.
She is exactly like Christian. She's a little sociopath and a little bit scared for her new baby brother being brought into the world.
They were too. Even Ronan says that. He's like, she's going to kill that child.
Yeah, and they're like, wow, we should hire just a full-time nanny just to make sure. But her relationship with Ronan, too, is super cute.
Same thing. Like, Ronan is, like, this big, tough guy, but, like, Kat just melts the hearts of anybody she meets.
Yeah, she's, like, immediately, like, runs to him anytime she sees him. And Mila is like, oh, my God.
Like, who are you?
She's like, put a baby in me right now.
I also thought it was really, really funny how, like, their idea of, like, a baby moon is going to, like, BFE Russia.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, we just, like, really needed to get away for a little bit. And,
so
like,
here we are in the
here
motherland.
We are in fucking, like, Siberia. There's nothing for miles and miles.
I guess, like, because Ronan's house is so nice, it's kind of nice.
And very protected.
Yeah, so they're like... Yeah, we'll go see the fam. We'll go visit Ronan.
I was just like, yeah, that sounds so peaceful and relaxing.
I guess it would be quiet.
It'd be quiet. Well, it would have been, but...
If you're anywhere near, like, where Ronan beats people to death, like, stay away from that, I guess.
I also, like, we talked about this a little bit last week, too. They've made it into every single book, and I really do feel like they will continue to, like, have little snippets in all the future books as well. I think they are, like, the main couple.
Yeah.
That, like, will kind of tie everything together. And that's because they're not, like, strictly tied to any one group. So, like, Nico, very much tied to the Mafia.
Right.
Ronan very much tied to the Bratva, but Christian, no, he's a free agent. He do what he wants.
Is the middleman, and it kind of reminds me of in the Monsters and Muses series how they're like
how Cal always pops up.
Yes, Cal. Yeah. He's the main like Hades of that book series,
which is how
he's
Hades
like
is
woven
too.
Throughout.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that. Alexi. Oh my God. So that's Mila's dad. He sucks.
He's terrible.
He is so selfish. Like, he has never done a selfless thing in his life. Even Mila, it breaks her heart to realize, but she's like, him, like taking
I'm a
care of
bargaining
me.
piece.
Yeah. The only reason he, like, kept her away from everything was because it was, like, a trophy of being with her mother.
Right.
And so she feels so heartbroken and betrayed when she learns that because she always thought that her dad loved her.
And I think that really obviously it plays into her, like, naivety as well, because she was kept so sheltered her whole life that she didn't know any different between, like, what love is supposed to be and, like, what it actually looks like. And I feel like if she had been more, like, socialized, she would have realized, like, something was not right with her dad.
Yeah, and she always, like, knew something was off, like, deep down. Because she had even repressed the memory of her dad, like, literally shooting her mom. Right. And when that comes back to her, she's like, oh, my God. Like, I've known this
like,
all
I didn't
along,
realize it was my mom,
but, like, I didn't know. Yeah, so it's just, I feel so bad for her. But, like, yeah, like, he literally only cares whenever he accidentally shoots her. And
yeah,
he's
and
like,
she's like,
oh, I fucked up. I wish that he was the one that got killed instead of his, like,
Yes.
son. That felt like a cop-out.
It did, because then he's, like, sitting by her bedside, and she's like, I never want to see you again. He's like, that's okay.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay.
I was like, what the fuck?
And then later, whenever she's, like, doing her own thing, and he, like, texts her, and he's like, hey, the house is being sold. Come get anything you want. And she's like, okay.
Like,
so she goes and, like, smashes the jewelry box he gave her.
He sucks.
Yeah.
Alexi sucks.
Hate him.
Another, like, really small character in this book is Nadia, but she kind of, like, again, I think it was more for, like, comedic relief than anything, because, like, Gianna and Kat, like, absolutely shit on her life.
That scene is another one of my favorites.
Yes.
Whenever Mila and Nadia are arguing, and Gianna is teaching Kat, she's like, no, here's how to be passive-aggressive, sweetie.
Yes. And I really do feel like Danielle Lori only wrote Nadia in, one, to be, like, kind of, like, the stick between Ronan and Mila and, like, cause some, like, tension, but also just so that she could write that scene with Kat and Gianna.
And even if that was the only reason,
That's fine.
glad she did it, because it's perfection.
She was a bitch, and she probably smelled bad, and I don't know, like, unnecessary.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what happened to her.
Ronan just kicked her
rocks,
out. Yeah, because Mila and Nadia got into an actual, like, physical altercation.
Right. And he was like, yeah, you can fucking walk home.
Yeah, he's like, just, Nadia, get out and don't come back. Speaking of little bitches, Ivan.
He is the littlest bitch of all.
Bro, he is so manipulative. Because
is.
he, like, makes Mila believe that they have some, like, a genuine friendship and connection, but really he's just using her to, like, control her.
Like, almost in the same way Alexi is. Like, Alexi was like, yeah, this is my little trophy of... like, my conquest. And Ivan's like, yeah, I can fucking get with Alexei Mikulov's daughter anytime I want to.
Yeah.
He's like, look how
Even
far...
though he literally never does.
Yeah, he's like, look how far I've come, Ronan. Like...
And it's funny, too, because the reason why he never does is probably because Alexei told him he couldn't.
Right.
So he's like, yeah, well, I could have her if I wanted to.
Yeah, he is, like, fucking
Because
the worst.
At the very beginning... Mila is like, why have you never kissed me? Because, like, they have, like, a little moment of tension. And he's like, oh, I just didn't want to.
And then he was, like, trying to, like, get back her. He's like, listen to me fuck this girl through the walls.
Yeah, and she's like, anyways, I'm going to Moscow.
Like, smell you later. Also, like, when I was so heated when he, like, grabs her through the cell door and, like, kisses her for the first time because he knows Ronan's watching on the cameras.
The thing is... Mila didn't even care until she realized he did it because there was a camera.
Right.
She was like, oh, this is genuine.
Like,
she was manipulated
this is really
again.
nice.
Yeah. Because
like,
she was
precious angel.
trying.
Like,
yeah. She wanted to be over Ronan, but
she's
she
like,
couldn't
I
be.
want there to be one good person in the world.
And psych, Ivan's a liar because he was literally in prison with Ronan and betrayed him.
Terrible. That was, like, honestly the biggest, like, fucking plot twist for me. Like, oh yeah, I know that kid. And it's like, you do?
Yeah. And Mila's like, shit, like, is nothing sacred?
Nothing is real. Art is a lie. Nothing is real. Yulia is my girl.
Yeah, I love her.
Girl. She is so funny and so scary and just everything I could ever hope and dream for. Like, murders her husband.
Yeah.
Shows up on Ronan's doorstep.
As she should.
And is like, hey, what up? It's your girl. I need a job and a place to stay.
And
I
like,
just
absolutely.
chopped up my husband. He was like, oh, shit. Like, get on in here.
And Ronan is like, yes, because whenever he was starving, he and Christian were on the streets, and Yulia, like, brought them food and, like, gave them a place to stay. So he's like, well, like, she probably had a good reason for killing her husband.
Yeah, and she totally, she might have.
I'm sure she did.
I don't know. Maybe she's tired of him, and that's fair.
Yeah, well,
that's not fair. You shouldn't kill your husband.
You better have a good reason if you're gonna do it.
But, like, just her, like, I love her development with Mila as well, because by the end of it, she's like, I will lay down my life for you, but don't tell anybody I said that.
Yeah. And, like, but meanwhile, she's being mean to her the entire time.
I'm going to put, like, Nair in your shampoo, so,
and
like, watch your back.
Call you a whore literally every chance I get.
But she means so well. I know she does.
Whenever they're going to leave, like, Mila's going with Ronan for the trade.
Yeah.
Yulia, like, hesitates, and she's like,
I was like, oh my god, she loves her.
I know. Like, literally shows a second of hesitation and then slams the door in her face. And she might as well have said, like, you're like a daughter to me.
Just kissed her on the lips for all I know.
And last but definitely not least is Albert.
King Albert.
King Albert. He reminds me so much of Joe from Princess Diaries.
He does.
And it's not even just because he's driving them around half the time. It's because he's our little grumpy uncle.
I do like that she describes him as being like a scary skinhead. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, like, I hope he's not, because I want to love him. But he definitely, like, puts off the vibes of, like, just, like, scary killer who only has a soft spot for the people he loves. Like,
I think
same
if,
as Christian and
Mila
Roman.
gave him a present, he'd blush.
Yes. And it's so funny, too, whenever she was, like, messing with him, and he, like, clapped back with something, like, perverted, and she would be like,
She's like, oh,
I lost.
He's like, yeah, that's what I thought. And, like, oh my god. His and Ronan's relationship cracks me up, too. Because, like, he's cracking jokes with Mila, right? In the back, like, while she's sitting in the back seat. And he's like, Albert, I will literally fucking kill you.
And Albert's like,
and
my
he's
bad,
like,
boss.
no, you won't, but my bad.
Yeah, he's like, aye, Captain. It's so funny, yeah, because, like, half the time whenever Ronan gets pissed at Albert for something Mila did, it's because Mila literally just does the opposite of what Albert tells her to do. And Ronan's, like, looking out the
Albert,
window.
what the fuck?
And Mila's in a tree. And he calls Albert on the phone. He's like, why the fuck is she in a tree? And Albert's like, I don't know, I told her not to.
He's like, I literally have zero control over this situation.
He's like, get her down. And yeah.
Albert's like, Mila, you gotta get down or I'm gonna get fucking sent to the gulag.
Dad said you have to get down. And then Mila, like, going into the, like, rabid dog's cage as soon as they leave the house.
Albert's like, I told you not to. I was in love with him. And I hope he finds someone as scary as him.
I would read an Albert book.
I would read an Albert book.
If only, like, to get more of Mila and Ronan.
I want to know more about you and how you came into this. Oh, I know he knew him in, like, prison, but...
Right.
Like, how'd you go to prison?
Because Ronan, like, beat him up, and that's why he, like, works for him.
He's like, mad respect, brother.
Yeah,
like,
he's like, you're right.
That's my president.
Because, like... I think it even said that Albert was a little bit bigger than him at the time, but what Ronan has that Albert doesn't is
sheer determination.
Is the literal devil in his soul.
He is not afraid of death, and I think Albert could sense that. He's like, shit.
Yeah. Ronan does not care.
He's got nothing to lose.
Who lives and who dies. And it's funny because... like, they're all hardened criminals, but Ronan is a different breed.
He is something else entirely. He's like, you know what? I will take us all out and then myself just out of spite.
Oh my god, like in Les Mis, whenever Mary's like, I will blow this barricade.
Like, you know what? Like, my girlfriend of one day left me, and I will blow this popsicle stand
I am extremely suicidal right now.
I'm so unstable.
And I will take you all with me.
And that's Ronan.
And they were like, okay, fellas, retreat.
We just watched Les Mis, so it's fresh in our brains.
Fresh.
Some things that we really, really enjoyed about the book. It's a pretty long list.
It's so long. Oh, whenever Ronan, he gets so mad that one of his men scared Mila.
Yes.
Because he's like, nobody's allowed to scare her but me. And I'm like, okay.
Step the fuck up, Kyle. Like...
yeah, that really cracked me up, especially because it was, like, not on his orders, so he was, like, genuinely
pissed. Which, I mean, because, yeah, anything could have happened.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
He could have accidentally died.
She could have, like, gotten kidnapped by, like, a rival or something.
True,
I don't know.
Yeah, like, she was literally just, like, wandering the streets of Russia.
Yeah. She's like, I know some Russian.
My dad told me how to say hello.
I can say hello.
And where's the bathroom?
Yeah, and I think she also definitely knew the color yellow because he said it in Russian and she was like,
she probably knew how to say that
yellow?
how she's vegan too.
Yeah, I bet. That way she can order at restaurants.
For sure. Everyone needs to know that. So we already talked about Gianna like walking in on Mila being tied to the bed. It definitely was one of our favorite scenes.
One of the best scenes.
Mila's protests.
She has so many.
So many. She is an environmental queen.
Yeah.
So...
and add to this list the fact that she refuses to wear jewels.
That's
like
right.
real jewels, because I forgot to write that
she
down.
had like the little ring that her father gave her that was a conflict-free diamond.
Yeah, it's like fake, like, and then her earrings too with the hearts.
Oh, they were, yeah, that's what they were. They were earrings.
Yeah.
On
I didn't know if she had a ring too, but
no, it was earrings. So, like, the banter that's always between her and Albert is that he chain smokes, like, just always seems to have a cigarette in his hand. And he always throws his butts on the ground, and she always gets onto him. And it's this cute little thing that they do. But she really is like, I will actually stab you if you don't pick that up.
yeah. And, like, if the first time he threw it on the ground, she literally, like,
She's
put
like,
it in his
open
pocket.
your mouth.
Swallow it.
Her hunger strikes. She's petty.
She is.
She's so
She's
petty.
like, I'll just die then.
She's like, oh, that's fine. Yulia's like, oh, you want to do that? Like, he'll come up and force feed it to you. Is that what you want? And she's like, oh, God, no.
Guess I'll eat then.
Guess I'll eat. That didn't last long. Refusing to change into the silk gown the first time she leaves the guest room.
She's like, I'll
I'll
stay in
actually
this
just wear my
Elvis shirt.
t-shirt with no panties.
And then has to sit on Ronan's lap, and she's like, oop.
This was the biggest mistake. So that's the funniest thing, is that, like, she has all these little, like, protests, and they immediately backfire on her every single time.
Every time, because even the cigarette butt thing, like, Ronan got mad that she and Albert were, like, having a little friendly chat.
When she fucking, like,
this is the best one.
From her room. So Ronan is, you know, like, trying to bargain with her. She's like, please just let me out. Like, I will literally do anything. And then just, like, fucking body slams him into the door. She gets, like, this random burst of strength, goes on a rampage through the mansion, and ends up killing a guard.
She was like, oopies, because the guard, like, tried to take her down. Like, he did slam her to the ground pretty hard.
Yeah, he was being, like, kind of vicious. It was his fault.
Yeah, and Ronan kind of was pissed about it, because he was like, damn, only I'm allowed to toss her around like that.
Right. He was like, I'm glad she killed him, otherwise I would have.
He really would have. He would have been like, you're dead. And the scene when Ronan, like, calls Mila a whore, so she throws her tea in his face, and he just calmly wipes his face, and he's like, I'll give you a head start.
The primal play in this book,
I'm
like,
blushing.
just, oh my God, it's so good. Or, like, whenever she, like, locks herself in her bathroom and he, like, breaks the door
She's like,
down.
good luck knocking the door down. I tried that all morning, and he kicks it.
I was like, shut up. The fucking tension between the two of them, because they didn't sleep together until, like, what, 3/4 of the way through the book?
I would say so.
Yeah, like, it was spicy in terms of the tension, but not actual, like, spice. And so whenever he, like, gets in the shower with her, I was like, stop it right
And he's
now.
literally, like, dousing her in cold water. I'm like, oh my God.
Like, that is incredible. Also, when he gets shot.
Yes. And he's like, I need some natural medicine.
Yeah. And she's like, you're literally shot. And he's like, I swear to fucking God, like, if you do not get over here immediately. I was like, what a demanding king.
Yeah, he's like, please, I'm hurt. And then the doctor walks in. He's like, are you serious?
Like, could you actually not?
And Mila,
the doctor
so
was 1,000% done with all of them. He did not want to be there a single time.
Because literally anytime he gives medical advice, they are like,
I'm not going to do that.
I appreciate your opinion. And he's like, why am I here?
He's like, Doc, who asked you?
Yeah, he's like, quit calling me then. And then also in the drawing room when he literally stalks her around the couch. And then after a while, she's like still provoking him as they're walking circles around the couch. So he just kicks it across the room. And then there's nothing between them. And I die.
I was like, stop it, my heart's racing. So this scene, I loved it, but I also hated it. So it's like they were together and like they've been like doing like cute ass couple shit. And like they sleep together almost every night. Like it's really adorable. They're getting into like this pattern. And I think she gets freaked out a little bit.
Yeah.
And like notices his gun like under his pillow. So she takes it and she's like just standing there with it in her hand. And she's like, can I or can't I?
Yeah.
Like,
and
kill
he's
you.
like, what are you doing?
And he like wakes up and like sees her with a gun and he was like, what the fuck? So she throws it and like
she like she accidentally her finger slipped and like
that's right.
On
it
the
does
trigger,
go off.
but it was like a dry fire. And so he he's just pissed that she could have even, like, because he thought that she was manipulating him again.
Right.
And so he, like, puts her outside.
And so, like, it's, like, the whole miscommunication part of that.
Yeah.
Because it's, like, she should not have done that.
Yeah.
But also, he should have maybe asked her. But, like, you also shouldn't touch a gun if you don't know how to use it.
Yeah, but I think she was also desperate. Like, I'll forgive her for this one. I would have been also conflicted.
She's like, look at me and this opportunity.
Yeah.
The cute part about it is he's like, if you want to fucking play with the dogs, you can go sleep with the dogs. And, like, throws her out into the dog pen. She's, like, curled up with chaos.
And he's like, I cannot leave her out there longer than 10 minutes.
And so he's, like, carrying her back in, like, bridal style. And, like, all of his, like, guards are just like, you fucking softie.
Yeah, he, like, puts her in bed. He's like, shut up, come here. We have to warm you up.
It was so cute.
I love that. I love, at the end of the book, when Christian is pretty much giving Ronan a therapy session, and you can tell he's, like, using all the tactics that his therapist has used on him. And I just think it's so funny because Ronan would never go to therapy.
No.
Like, Mila probably couldn't even get him to go to therapy.
No.
But Christian was like, hey, here's what I learned, and I think this could help you, bro.
Like, just slip you a bit of wisdom here.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of really great parts in this book. I really do feel like there wasn't as much substance until, like, the end, really. Alexei has, like, this whole secret other family and that we just randomly meet. Like, Ronan also happens to kidnap them, and he's like, what do you have to say to your brothers? And she's like, who?
Jinx. Yeah. Hated that.
And so it really doesn't start getting, like, super interesting until, like, we start hearing, like, until Ivan shows up, really.
Yeah.
And he was like, baby girl, you gotta come back home.
Yeah, and she's like, with you? Like, you're lying to me. But yeah, there are just a handful of things that we disliked. I would say the most glaring offense for me is the age gap.
It's pretty bad.
There is a 12-year age gap, which I know you're thinking, like, if they're adults, but Mila literally just
19.
turned 20. She turned 20, like,
that's right.
The very beginning of the book.
That's right.
So,
Because
like,
she's like, oh, I'm 19. She's like, well, I'm actually 20, and I
Yes.
feel like you should know that.
like 2 days before she meets Ronan, she turned 20.
That's right.
And so she even, after they, like, fooled around, she was like, oh, he thinks I'm 19. So she was like,
how
I'm actually
embarrassing.
20. And he's like, that's cute. I'm 32.
And we're like, oh, you're
And
a
I
pervert.
was like, ooh, I don't like that.
He didn't like it either, to be fair, though, because he was like, fuck,
She
she's
asked
young.
him if it bothers him at one point, and he said, not enough. And I was like, at least he's honest.
Like, you know, I can't fault him for being honest.
Yeah, I was like, good Lord. The other thing for me is, like, when he first kidnapped her, he sees her naked, and he about loses control. Like,
Yeah.
you were worried for a second.
I was scared.
So I didn't love that, but
He's, like, straight up, like, okay, she's tied to the bed, right? Completely naked. She's panicking, and not in a good way.
Yeah.
Like, not in, like, I'm using fear as, like, a turn-on for you. She's
Yeah.
like, no,
No,
I'm going to go
she
to a place deep, deep, deep into my head.
dissociates.
And he is, like, going down on her. He's like, yeah, she's fucking into this. And he's like, oh, where'd your eye? Like, there's a dead, empty look in your eyes. Like, what's
He's
happening
like,
here?
Hey, girl, my bad. But he just
He
kind
does
of,
stop,
like...
though. He's
yeah,
like, oh, shit. Like,
he
she doesn't want
stops,
this.
which is the bare minimum. But, yeah, I don't like that. But it also is kind of it kind of sets the... I
he
would say
doesn't
the
touch her
benchmark.
after that, though.
Yeah, because he, like, waits for her to, like, come after him, basically, at that point.
Because if anything, he's a gentleman.
Oh, yeah, such a gentleman. No, but I feel like it sets, like, a benchmark for, like, his behavior. And you're like, okay, so he's not a good guy.
No. Which
But
we knew.
as he grows to care for Mila more and more, and, like, Mila is, like, super, like, compassionate and, like, has all these causes that she's for. And so he sees the things that are important to her, and he begins to, like, change for the better.
Yeah.
And so I think it serves a purpose, but it was hard to read. I'm not going to lie. Especially if you have triggers.
I mean, like I said, I got real scared.
Yeah, it was actually kind of scary.
It was like, oh God, like, is this about to happen? Like, I don't know if I can look past that. Also, the fact that, like, Ronan is just constantly, like, letting his guard down and then immediately, like, slamming it back up again as soon as he thinks deeper into, like, the meaning of their relationship. Mm-hmm. I don't like that, and, like, it felt
just
very
happens too many times for me.
Yeah, it was so repetitive. But also, it's like, after a while, like, you can obviously see that Mila does not have the brain cells to put together a devious scheme like that, and it's like, you know you love her.
Yeah, like, she's
but it's
not...
like, get real, man. Like, she's dumb.
She's not that smart or that good of an actor. Like, come on. Yeah, and then, okay, the fact that Mila can just... in, like, 3 seconds, she's there. She's getting off.
Like, the fucking hallway scene.
Yeah. And literally, they're closed.
She's just, like, rubbing herself against his kneecap. And
she just dry humps his knee. And then she comes.
And he was like, I'm sorry, what just happened?
Yeah. The only blessing from that scene is he's like, are you gonna come on my thigh? And I was like,
oh my God, are you? I was embarrassed.
It made me laugh so hard, though.
I got secondhand embarrassment.
But she did not care. She was like, oof.
No, I was just like, God bless. Like, in the hallway?
And it was after she had, like, tried to kiss him, but, like, clinked teeth with him.
I was like, girl, fucking get it together.
And he was
this
like...
man is 32. You're embarrassing us.
He's like, I am going to kidnap her a lot easier than I thought.
He's like, this is about to be... so fucking easy.
Yeah, she's wild.
Like, she's so dumb.
She's embarrassing.
She's so dumb. She's also just like a little self-sacrificial hoe. I know she loves Ronan. And like he's important in the role of the Bratva.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have died, though, if he got hit with that bullet. He's a
little bit taller.
She didn't die. Yeah, and he's a little bit taller than her.
Yeah. So if anything,
it probably might have hit his leg.
Hit him in the dick.
And it's like, you really... I think he had the situation... I think he knew he was going to get shot at, first of all. Wasn't he wearing, like... No, he wasn't wearing anything under, but...
He might have been.
Like a bulletproof vest?
He might have been wearing a vest.
He was like, Mila, I have a bulletproof vest on.
Oh, no.
That's what it was. Yeah, he was like, what the fuck?
He was pissed.
Yeah, and she's like, let me just hop in front of this bullet for you, baby. Like, don't even worry about me. Like, I'm nothing. And it's like, I mean, true, but also... Like,
he's like, can you fucking quit that, though? Because,
I know,
like,
he's
she's
like,
been like
I
that
am
from the
literally,
get-go.
like, so covered right now.
Yeah. The funny thing is, like, he probably, expected to get shot at and was, like, gonna turn it into a whole thing. Like, now I have a reason to kill you.
Yeah, and then she got mad because he got mad. And it's like, well, he has a reason to.
Yeah, she's real dumb.
But bless her heart.
I do love her.
That's really all we didn't like, though. The ending is really, really good. I like that it all comes together. They get their happily ever after. It's a little cheesy, a little corny towards the end, but
I kind of like that sometimes.
I liked it, yeah.
Especially after how dark it was. It's like, you know what? They deserve that.
That's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel.
They deserve a little bit of sugar. So I will talk briefly about some of the symbolism in this book because it's pretty apparent throughout. So first of all, yellow. Mila is always dressed in yellow. Our little hippie sunshine queen.
Crystal queen.
Oh, yes. She is definitely a crystal girl.
She, like, read everyone's, like, horoscope every single day.
Yes.
Like, she did all of their birth charts.
Yeah, she very much strikes me as someone who's very spiritual and just, like, open-minded to everything. And we love her. But, you know, yellow represents sunshine, warmth, happiness, whereas Ronan, who is always dressed head to toe in black, black symbolizes darkness, cold, or death. And then their nicknames.
I loved her nickname.
And I'm going to butcher this, but Katyanok, which is kitten. You think of sweet, cuddly, cute things, which is funny, too, because we talked about Mila has another side of her.
Feral cats are.
True. She's still a cat.
She's a feral kitten.
And then the devil, represents, of course, ruthlessness, evil, and being, like, extremely feared. And then The last one that I think is important to like them is The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. So Mila and Ronan had both found comfort in the poem, like growing up, which is about grief and loss, and so they probably like latched onto it as young children. Mila has this memory that she kind of goes back to of her as a young child. She remembers she had bangs and like dirt on her face and was like reading The Raven underneath her dad's desk. But she notices, this is like the first time she's interacted with Ronan, she notices he has a raven tattooed on his finger. And so she starts quoting the poem, and it's like the first conversation that they ever have. So it's significant to them. And then she gets it tattooed on her ring finger instead of a wedding band.
Which is something that I have noticed in every single one of these books, is that she uses tattoos as symbolism for, like, every single one of these men. Like, Nico starts us out with his tattoos. He has, like, the Ace of Spades on his sleeve. And then...
Which totally makes sense, too, because of, like, they're in the mafia and the Bratva, which is, it's, like, part of their culture as well.
And, like, Christian, who has, like, all of his prison tattoos, like, each one of those has, like, very significant meaning to, like, different parts of his life while he's in prison. And then you have Ronan, who has all of his. So I think that's super, super cool. But also, like, with, like, Alexi, too, like, his star tattoo, like, whenever she first notices it, like...
She wanted one.
Yeah.
And he was like, you can't have one, but I'll give you this necklace. So that's, like, another part, too. She's like, when she finally gets a tattoo, she's like, this is for me. I'm choosing this. Because, like, you know, her father was so controlling and never let her do her own thing. But also just the fact that tattoos are permanent.
Right.
And so it's, like, again, like a symbol of their love. Like, they intend to be together forever, which is...
Yeah, I just think it's super, super cool how she uses that in every single book. There's also a lot of tropes and kinks in this book.
So many.
So the tropes for this one, kidnapping is a pretty frequent one that we cover. It is very much giving Beauty and the Beast.
She even is like, you're Stockholm syndroming me.
Which is funny, too, because Belle... wears yellow. Like her ball gown is yellow in Beauty and the Beast. And so I think it's funny that that's her favorite color. Yeah. Just one more thing that ties her to that.
So cute.
And then for the Beast, it's not so much as like a physical change, but like an emotional and like mental change for Ronan. He's able to open up a piece of his dead cold heart to...
Because like I said, like that first scene where we're like, oh my god, he's actually terrifying. It's like really like dark, and you're like, ooh,
like I don't know if we can come back from this.
And so it's pretty like stark, I would say, from the beginning to the end, like how much his heart has warmed.
Forced proximity, another one of our favorites. They spend the whole fucking book in this mansion.
And of course another super favorite is the grumpy sunshine trope, and also like coming from different worlds.
Cute. Forbidden love, yum.
We eat that up.
Like, this had everything and more we could have wanted. So good. Forbidden love, that can come in many different forms. In this case, it's two rival families.
A Romeo and Juliet.
They've really put every classic literature into this.
Okay, Danielle. Some
of the kinks that we see throughout this book, BDSM, definitely very prevalent. He's a rough rider, that Ronan.
A rough rider. Yeah, and as well as the primal play. We talked about him, like, stalking her, chasing her around the house. We love it. Degradation.
One of my favorites in a book.
Yeah. He's like, wow. And he even, like, is aware of it, too. Like, he's like, wow, she lets me treat her like dirt.
So terribly.
And he's like, I don't know how to feel about that, because, like...
He's like, I don't want to treat her like dirt.
Really want her to do that, but... Yeah, it's kind of funny.
That one always, like, I don't know why, but when I read a book and I see that, I get so shocked. And I'm like, I've read this so many times in so many different scenarios.
You're like,
but
he did not.
Time, like, someone gets called, like, a whore or, like, a slut. And I'm like, I'm sorry. How dare you? Oh, my God. And then I'm like, wow, that's actually really cute. And then we do have the age gap. Which shouldn't be I don't know. It is a kink, but it shouldn't be.
Yeah. It's just not for me.
It's not for me at all.
And I do understand that she is, legally an adult, but there's just...
She has such a childlike mindset, though, that, like, I did feel like there were a lot of times when, like, he may not even have been meaning to, but, like, he was taking advantage of her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And there were times that it was, like,
because
actually scary.
He definitely put himself in, obviously, like, a savior-type position, especially in the beginning, and she was like, oh, my God, like, someone's showing me love and affection.
Yeah.
And then even later on, whenever he, like, you know, will do nice things for her, so he gets her, like, vegan meals, and he, like, starts, like, really being, like, attentive to her, but still being, like, a huge dick, and, like, is still going back and forth. Like, I felt like that was manipulative.
It is. And that's the thing about, like, I would say these romance novels is, like, these men are not good men. Like, in all 3 of the books, like, they have all been extremely flawed. Like, they're not good men, but they, like, show love to these people that they fall in love with in the way that they can and that they know how.
And, like, those people do, like, the love interest in mine, like, they do understand that, and that's why they work, because they're, like, that's the only way they know how to love, and that's how I like to be loved, but...
Yeah.
I don't know, like, from the outside looking in,
it's just very imperfect, but, yeah. I mean, like, I think it's something that in real life, like... If you are feeling like you're having these...
I feel like they'd be toxic.
...types of relationships, like, yeah, maybe you should try to go to couples counseling.
If your friends aren't telling you to get help, then you need better friends.
Yeah. It is...
But she doesn't have any friends is the issue.
Her only friend is Ivan, and he's also manipulative. So it's like, damn.
I guess she had
At least Ronan treats her like a queen. Like, I don't know. So, yeah, with that, we're going to kind of move into some discussion questions. And... We are going to start off with one that I think you'll be able to guess both of our answers to. So first question, would you be able to fall for someone who kidnapped you?
Yes.
Yeah. Immediate yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I, too, am dumb. Mm-hmm. And I can be so easily swayed.
Yeah.
Like, so easily swayed.
Because, like Mila, if somebody is, like, doing nice, thoughtful things for me...
Someone shows me, like, a sliver of kindness. I'm fine, by the way. It's just, like...
Fine is a relative term.
Especially if they're, like, hot.
Yeah, that's my thing, is, like, it would... Depending on how hot they are, like, it could be an immediate
Like, if they were
thing.
just, like, a horrendous person... Here's the thing, though. It's, like, if they were being, like... physically, like, abusive or like just like being mean to the point, like saying terrible things, like, no,
then no. But if it was
no.
like this situation where it's like you kind of have a chemistry, first of all, to begin with, and then they're like doing thoughtful things, like bringing you vegan meals, like buying you faux furs,
like
and materials,
buying you the shampoos that you can use,
like
tested on animals,
doing a bunch of thoughtful things.
Because it's like,
I'd be
even
like,
when he would say like rude things, like, he couldn't follow through on it. He almost immediately was like, I'm sorry.
And then eventually, like, she realizes that his threats towards her are empty, and she's like, I'm not scared of him anymore.
Like, oh shit, it's on.
Because at first she was like, oh, this guy might
he's
kill
gonna
me.
hit me.
Yeah, but then he really doesn't. He did, like, kind of lightly slap her at one point.
He did, in the hallway.
She looked so hurt, and it goes to his perspective later in the book. And he's like, I couldn't even handle the look on her face when I slapped her.
Or, like, even, like, in the hallway when she's, like, crawling to him like a dog, and he was like, stand the fuck up.
Yeah. And he's like, as much as this is turning me on, he's literally
like,
pissed.
Get up. Yeah. So, yeah, I could.
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes, but there are stipulations, of course. Question 2. So, again, we're just going to keep relating the same question to previous questions. Do you judge Mila for the decision she made in this book?
I would say the first time I read this book,
yes,
I was very judgmental of her.
I still am, but...
yeah, but, like, okay.
She did her best with what she was given.
She did. The very first time I read it, I was like, she's so stupid. Like, why is she literally doing any of this? But at the same time, I was like, well, her life wasn't really that great, like, back home.
And actually, you know what? I changed my mind, because I don't think I could have made, you know, a Bratva boss fall in love with me. Dude, she played her cards so good. Like, did she realize it? Maybe not. I don't know. But she did. And I think that's more than most people could do.
Yeah, because
she used her looks and personality to her advantage.
She is, like, authentically a quirky person. And Ronan was like,
She's like, I'm going to kill him with kindness.
Ronan's like, you are a circus freak, but I kind of
like,
dig
I'm
it.
into it.
Yeah.
So, like, no, I don't judge her.
I did at first, but I don't anymore. Now that I know more.
And also, it's like, you know, she was kidnapped. What else was she supposed to do?
Yeah.
And, like, you know, getting feelings later on, like, sure, maybe not the best idea, but...
Yeah, but again, like, it probably
also,
would
like,
happen
you
to
maybe
me.
shouldn't have run away from home. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just, like, tough because, like, she
very
ran away from home
circumstantial.
because she didn't want to marry some guy that she hated, and I was like, well...
And she wanted to reconnect with her motherland.
Yeah, and, like, I can understand all of that. So it's like, really...
No, I don't blame her.
I mean, she did, like, some silly things, like,
She's
going to
still a dumb
Russia
bitch,
with
but
no plan. Yeah.
not telling anybody where she's going and just blindly believing in random strangers, but
Yeah, she do be dumb, but
I don't judge her.
She has a heart of gold, okay? And I love her.
And it worked to her advantage.
It did. It all worked out. So, next question. Do you think that there are actually, like, a ton of influential or famous families that have ties to organized crime? Especially the Bratva, because they're pretty widespread. Like, they're in, like, I think it was more than 50 countries.
Yeah. I mean, I do.
Maybe not.
I just don't know how.
Yeah, because, like, okay.
I think, like, politically, yes.
That's what I was thinking, is I think it's more like politicians.
Yes.
Because, like, those are the people that can influence, like, law and policy. And so it's like, oh, the criminals are, like, paying them off.
Also, it's like, you think back to, like, Alexi's, like, Mila's mom. She was, like, an opera singer.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, maybe, like, famous, celebrities.
Yeah.
Or, like, maybe their families have tie, and, like, that's
Yeah.
what gets them to, like, the spots that they're in. I do. Like, and they may not even have, like, high-up positions, like, important positions within, like, those types of organized
just, like,
groups.
ties.
But I bet they have ties to them.
Yeah. And it's so funny because... To me, it's hard to picture it, like, in the United States specifically for some reason.
Because it's so low-key.
Yeah.
Compared to the Bratva.
Like other countries.
Like, they're, like, from what it sounds like, they're very out there, and they're not scared to, like, show it.
That's kind of the vibes I was getting, like, when I was researching the Bratva. So, like, I agree. I think it would be more common in probably countries that are, like, more influenced by the Bratva's presence.
Yeah.
And I remember from my research that Spain was particularly, like, an area, and Atlanta, Georgia.
Which is
the
super
US.
cool.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Why.
It's like, how? But, you know, I'm sure that there's, like, a specific reason that that they ended up in one location, but...
Interesting. I'm very interested to see if that's true. I don't know how I would find out, but...
Yeah. Let me call a Bratva person. Hey, email us at the Sisters Warden.
Hey, if any of you have ties to the Bratva, could you please email us and just let us know how and that came about and how it influences you on your day-to-day?
Yeah. Listen.
You don't have to give us your names.
No, we just want an anonymous interview.
Like, you can make a whole brand new email just for this.
I have some questions, and I want to talk to you. But please don't murder us.
Yeah, like, if you're going to tell us, make sure it's safe.
Yeah, don't get us killed. Don't get yourself killed.
It's not worth it. I'm not that curious. Question 4. Do you think you could survive in Russian prison?
No.
Do you think you could survive in American prison?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I could do both. Because I have God complex.
I think you could do both, too. And I mean that.
Yeah.
You're kind of crazy.
I think I could.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, you're such a
I'd make a friend somehow.
You're such a a bullshitter. You're a professional bullshitter, and I think that you could, like, weasel your way into whatever
manipulate
situation.
my way through Russian prison.
Yeah, you're like, I can get myself wherever is going to be the safest and provide me with the most protection.
Yeah.
And me, I'm just not quite that charismatic. I think they would be like, kill that bitch.
No. I do think I could, though.
I would die.
I have the confidence, I think.
I would catch some obscure bacterial
Yeah,
infection.
I mean, I'd be really scared, but the prison tats would be a good story later on.
Yeah, oh, that's the thing, is I would get beat to death for refusing a prison tattoo. They would be like, you think you're too good for us?
I'd be like, no, baby, put it on. Like,
yeah,
that's
but
fine.
I would be
It's just
scared about,
skin.
like, infection.
I mean, maybe. I believe it. You know, a lot of people get them. I'm sure
they don't all have
I'm
HIV.
sure it's relatively safe.
I'm sure they don't all have hepatitis and or HIV.
No. One's curable.
So, last question. So, in this book, Ronan mentions Christian working with the Colombian, which we think is Sebastian. So, what could possibly be some theories on how Christian, Ronan, and their ties to the Bratva would play a role in a book centered around Sebastian and the cartel?
So this is where I was thinking about like some of these spoilers they maybe talked about, because whenever Christian was in Ronan's office, like when they first got there with Kat, they were talking about like business deals and stuff, and so I think they like briefly mentioned like Christian working with like Nico, but they also obviously mentioned him working with the Colombians. And so I feel like this next book, and we've talked about this a little bit, like Sebastian like using all these newfound ties he has and creating like some like fucking wildly like popular like I don't know, like using his part of the cartel to like really branch out into like other areas. And so I feel like he's going to end up being like the key player here, because he has like favors from Nico and he has favors from well, really just Nico, but he has business ties with Christian, and Christian really likes him,
and
because
he's so charismatic
smart.
too. Like he's smart, he's charismatic. Like I think he definitely could be the most powerful player.
And I think Ronan, like, I don't think he's met Sebastian, but he makes a lot of his judgment calls based off of Christian. And so I think if Christian's like, yeah, give it the go-ahead, like, he'll start working with Ronan's part of the Bratva as well.
And I think that, like, Sebastian would do it all respectfully. Like, he wouldn't step on any toes, because, again, he's super smart.
I don't think so. No, he wouldn't step on any toes, but I do think, like, there's something bigger going on with his story.
Yeah. But I think that he definitely is, like, as far as, like, toughness goes and, like, physical strength, he is the weakling. I don't think he's
strong, yeah.
But I think he is the most cunning and, like, clever.
But again, I think he could just talk himself out of anything.
Yeah. I love that. I think that, I agree. He definitely is going to play, like, a larger role. I can't wait to read his book.
If this book's ever finished.
Danielle, please, we need it.
We've been waiting so long.
We love Sebastian. We want to hear more about him. But I think that he will, like, maintain good relations with Nico and, like, Ronan and Christian. I don't think that he would encroach on anything that they're doing, because I think doing that would be, like, a suicide mission.
Yeah. But I think he is definitely going to use the three of them to, like, benefit.
Yeah, but I think it'll benefit all of them in the end. Yeah. And so they'll be, like, pissed, but they'll be like,
I mean, what am I going to do?
I guess. But don't do it again.
It's like, you've made yourself so, like, vital to these plans
that they can't get rid of you.
And that's what I strive to do in my everyday life. Yeah. Like, I need to be so important that if something happens to me or I leave, like, they're just crippled.
Yeah, because not only do I want people to mourn me, I want people to not be able to survive without me.
So,
personally.
God complex. But that wraps up the World of the Maid series. For now. Yeah, unless we finally get that book about Sebastian. But join us next week for a super festive mini-sode. Caitlin and I are going to be writing our own Hallmark movie pitches, which has turned into a whole thing.
Drafting a novel.
We are actually writing books now.
Yeah, but it's based off of the Hallmark movie vibes, but, you know, like,
with our own spin.
It's a Hallmark-style rom-com that we are throwing together. We're trying to make it creative at the same time, like, make it a little bit different than normal.
I want it to not be your typical Hallmark movie, but still have nods to traditional Hallmark movies.
Yeah. I want it to be like the Hallmark cozies, but
with an actual enjoyable storyline.
Yeah, like not too corny. Cheesy. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we'll be kind of pitching those ideas just for fun as a little festive minisode. The episode after that, the next book we're doing is A Christmas Carol by Charlie Dickens.
Charlie.
We're friends. We're friends, okay?
Nickname basis.
Listen, I don't know where that came from. It's because we're close. What can I say? I have a little seance every weekend. We talk. But yeah, that'll be our next installment of Too Long Didn't Read for all of you
That'll be
folks
our last
who have to read that for school.
full-length episode of the year.
Yeah. Because after that is just one more mini-sode, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
I can't believe 2022 is like over.
Did you guys know that it's been almost a full year since we started our first episode? So we will be posting about that as well.
Yes, we'll come up with something fun to do for our 1-year anniversary. Also, we're working on getting a prototype started for some merch. We've had the design. We just had to kind of get the materials and the time to get it together.
Yes.
So yeah. We have some exciting things coming up in the new year.
With us.
Yeah. Please don't abandon us now if you've made it this far. But we'll see you next week. And as always,
let's get lit.